welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition, to another installment of Hashtag Fade to Black. I am your host, Donnell Alamonte Morris, here with Anita Joe, aka Teach, here with Beast Johnson. How y'all all doing today?
Doing fine. How are
Hey,
you?
I'm doing good.
Good. Look like I caught you doing something busy, Teach. You want me to get you off the screen real quick?
Um, yeah.
Okay, I'll get ready to say
I have
you
this
busy.
report to turn in, and I just a few clicks away.
All right, cool. Let's go ahead and let Cheese go off. So Beast, for the opening statements, just gonna jump right into it. Um, Basically, we gonna continue our conversation about Black Lives Matter. Last time it got a little bit heated. Um, no different than what's gonna happen today too. So let's go ahead and get into our opening statements. Beast, go ahead and start us off.
All right. Taking the time to understand something thoroughly makes all the difference in the long run. It's better to spend an hour thoroughly reading the instructions to assemble something as opposed to spending 3 hours just trying to do it off the look. The Black Lives Matter organization as well as the movement are two distinct different entities. And we have to take that time to understand that, and understand what each one is actually doing and bringing to the table before we start making assumptions and uneducated charges against people or entities for things that we believe they're doing, but truthfully, they have no association or affiliation with it is that you're accusing them of or making this charge against. So we definitely have to be careful because we're in an oversensitive environment and era right now. And this constant, instant connection with everyone causes everyone to over scrutinize and over analyze everything that's being said and shown. And you're going to catch it the second it hits the internet. So you have to do your due diligence to make sure that whatever statements you make or views you project are made from an educated, rational, logical place. Because someone's going to come with a rebuttal. And if you desire to, you must have a proper rebuttal that shows that logic and ration and true understanding, not knee-jerk reaction and emotional ignorance. So let's take the time to understand some things so it'll be easier for us to move forward in a smooth, quickly, and efficient manner. With that, I yield the floor.
As for me, my opening statement is before you jump, understand why you're jumping. And I'm not just talking about conclusions. It could be you just going into a bar, knowing that it's dangerous when you go in. Before you eat your food, knowing that it's going to be the most nastiest thing you ever eat. But understand what you're getting yourself into and the things that you're about to say. Alluding to what my panelist, Beast Johnson, had to say, I'm just going to add on to what he said on his opening statements. But I'm going to go a little bit further. Our people, and I put myself into it too, we have an issue with jumping to conclusions and being afraid to say we don't understand it. We just reacting. The famous knee-jerk reaction, which is true. But it does not make it right. without understanding the facts that leads to the truth. So we got these stories and allegations coming out against Tamika Mallory and Ben Crump. I'm gonna use one of the families, Mike Brown parents, and then you got Tamir Rice's parents coming out after Black Lives Matter, but mainly Tamika Mallory and Ben Crump. And a lot of y'all who always like to pick the broad brush that just because they're black and they're activists that they are with Black Lives Matter. Let me break news to you. Tamika Mallory and Ben Crump are not working for or with Black Lives Matter. Let me say that again. Tamika Mallory and Ben Crump are not working for or with Black Lives Matter. They work for their own organizations. But see, our people have an issue when we hear these things. We jump on the bandwagon and we're like, yeah, see, they like to make money off of our pain. They like to make money when they find a way to go ahead and use our struggle to help their shine, to help them to get up and grab that brass ring, using a WWE analogy. And then come to find out at the end, oh, they wasn't even part of Black Lives Matter. This is what happens when you sit there, you jump on the bandwagon, and you don't understand why you're jumping on the bandwagon. So in this show, thank goodness, Teach has a nonprofit that she can explain to you how a nonprofit works and what a nonprofit do. And then we're going to tackle people like Al Sharpton, people like Tamika Mallory, people like Ben Crump, on what are they supposed to do, and understand why they do what they do, who they do it for, and what is the responsibility of the people that they are representing. Because right now you got all this hoopla going on Twitter, probably all over social media, demonizing these activists. But nobody's not sitting down and understanding what the facts are, what the real truth is. Only thing that we all hearing is just hoopla. Calling these activists and these organizations names other than the child of God. But we're going to get down to the bottom of it to help you understand and realize, just because it make you feel good, warm, and fuzzy inside just to say these things, that at the end of the day, when the facts and the truth start coming out, we don't want you to be on the losing end looking stupid. Not dumb, stupid. And Teach, if you're good, just give me a thumbs up for the opening statement. So I yield the floor.
Nanga Def, Manga Free. Greetings in the language of the Wolof speaking people of Senegal. Hello and welcome. I just want to chime in reminding us of two popular cliches that I believe overshadow and guide the thinking and the practices of the average African American that may have grown up in the church. And one cliche is, you do good without any expectations. Because if you do good, you shall be rewarded. In this case, we're going to break down and show how that is a great misnomer. And then the second one, which is very close to the first one, is that you never ask for payment for a good deed. Now, how many of you have heard these cliches or sayings very much like this? Basically, with the Good Samaritan, you do a good deed, you don't expect to get a paycheck. Because if you expect to get a paycheck, then you're not doing it out of the goodness of your heart. You are doing it for greed's sake or for monetary value or for prestige or any set of other things. So when we're into this conversation, let's keep these type of cliches at the forefront of our mind and understand the frame of mind in which people are acting. So with that, I yield the floor. Let the conversation begin.
I'm already liking this. Everybody getting ready for this topic we're about to jump into. But before we go into this topic, we got to introduce our sponsor, and that is Real Cheddar Boy Popcorn, 12 different flavors. Yes, they do deliver. The website is strolling at the bottom, realcheddarboypopcorn.com. 12 different flavors. Great flavors. First of all, did any of y'all popcorn came in yet?
I haven't received mine.
Not yet. Good grief. Post office. But other than that, y'all can go ahead and get your popcorns in. Oh, your popcorn came in, Beast?
I was agreeing with your post office.
Oh, okay, so realchapelpopcorn.com, ladies and gentlemen. Get yours today. All right, so I'm happy that we all, getting on the same sheer music about what is going on. So we're not going to talk about the Tamika Mallory and the Ben Crump situation per se. We're going to talk about it in a generalized sense because the biggest issue that I see, now, ladies and gentlemen, listen, I see, not Teach, not Beast. They probably do, but this is coming from me. Our biggest issue that I see is we do have a knee-jerk reaction, not understanding what is actually going on. We don't sit back, like, for example, we preach on the show about politics. None of us, not majority of our people are that active when it comes to local politics, but they sit there and say, well, voting don't help, voting don't matter, but you don't even know who your superintendent of your school district is. That should be something that should be the first thing you know off the top of your head, at least that. If you know who the president of the United States is, you should know who's running your local politics outside your door. This situation is no different. So, Teach, I'm happy that you actually have a nonprofit. And people honestly don't know how nonprofit works. So can you explain to people to help them out with this, with what's going on with Black Lives Matter?
Before T says that, if I could just, I want to speak on something T said in the opening statement that we should speak on as well about the cliches. And the reason why they're cliches is because most of them don't apply to current standards, or people haven't taken the time to understand how it can still be used according, like the Good Samaritan. you can still be a good Samaritan and ask for payment. You're being greedy if you're asking for more than a functional's worth. If you're just asking for payment to cover expenses, because we live in a different world now. We have a lot more different things, and it has to be an equivalent exchange of payment. So yes, I'm coming out of my heart for it, but the only real payment, it's same like with churches and preachers. When you go to another church, you don't expect the payment, but you're hoping in the back of your head for at least enough to cover the gas to get there. And that's the same thing that the church is thinking. We just want to give them enough to cover the gas, getting here, and maybe give them something to eat. For coming out here to coming out all this way out. So it's that kind of mentality that should still be acknowledged, just adapted to current standards.
Right, and we're going to get deeper into that as the show progresses on. Explain to people how a nonprofit works and what is the main function of having a nonprofit.
Well, there's several different types of nonprofit, but I'll just stick to the 501c3. There's other different categories that give you a tax exempt status. And what each mission is, I can't speak for all nonprofits, but basically it falls in the category of charity or education, or arts and entertainment. Their categories are wide and various. But basically, that organization is operating for a noble cause, a cause that wouldn't not necessarily be taken up by private citizens or taken up through the government, but through a nonprofit, they can lead the banner on campaigning for public funds and sponsors and partners to fulfill their vision. In my particular case, the African Roots and Heritage Foundation, we are a cultural entertainment nonprofit, and our license and our mission is to celebrate culture. So therefore, we organize public events such as festivals, various African American holidays like Kwanzaa. We do the African Affairs Symposium, and we bring people from all over the world to speak at our events, to participate as vendors, as speakers, as educators. We deal with the language, the film, all parts of culture, up to and included, and especially the spirituality of the African wherever he may find himself. So with that, we're able to, we are a donor-based or member-based organization, meaning that we have a membership pool that pays a membership role that pays dues on a monthly, quarterly, or annual basis. We also have partners that we have a different various levels that partners can come in, and they have specified benefits for being a partner at a certain level. And then we also shop for grants from various organizations that that align up with our particular cause. Now, to make it specific or bring it closer to the topic, in the case of the Black Lives Matter, they are a 501c3, and they are championing a cause that the government is not going to take up, private citizens are not going to take up, but they can operate as an organization to solicit funds from the public. Now, how they distribute those funds, they have that written out in their charter. Every 501c3 has to submit a very detailed application that includes who's going to get paid, who's not going to get paid. If you have a board's members, will they receive an annual stipend or no? And most times board members are not inured, which means that they cannot receive any monetary benefits for being a board member of the organization per se. But you do have the executive director, the secretary, the comptroller, um, the person that does the accounting of all of the books. All of these are paid positions, but most organizations, and I'll include the Red Cross. We know that is one of the largest 501c3s in the United States, and they have multi-billion-dollar budgets. And what happens is that the main core people are employed by the nonprofit. I myself had an opportunity to volunteer during Hurricane Katrina. And as a volunteer, I received a stipend that covered my lodging, my transportation, as well as I believe they gave us a cell phone or cell phone credits at that time, because we were going down into areas that were devastated by the hurricane. So as a volunteer, I received a stipend that covered my expenses while I was on duty. And usually they have a time limit that you can serve, which in this particular capacity, it was a 3-week time limit. And then after the time limit is over, then you're relieved of your duties and you may or may not be called back, depending on how devastating that is. So I said all of this to say that within the structure of the nonprofit, they have categories that they can make payments, like paying rent on a building that they occupy, paying light and gas on a building that they occupy, paying for phone service, internet. They are free at liberty to do that. To purchase vehicles and or rent vehicles, they are at liberty to do that. To pay their volunteers, well, not pay their volunteers, to give a stipend to their volunteers so their volunteers can be able to operate, is also permissible. Now, putting everybody on the payroll, that's not how a charity works. A charity works at the bare bones, meaning that they will have an executive director, maybe an assistant director, and maybe a part-time secretary or clerical staff, and a comptroller, which is usually a full-time position. But all the positions that need to pull off a particular event, they are volunteers. So when working with a nonprofit, you have to be very clear as to what your status is. If you're a speaker, usually they have a speaker's fee assigned to your category, your level of prestige. For example, if let's say famous professors like Cornel West, he could command $25,000 speaker fee to speak for 20 minutes and have 10 minutes question and answer. That's 30 minutes worth of work, $25,000 because of his prestige. Person like me, I could command $10,000, not the 25,000, but I could command the 10,000. And depending on the organization and their budget, they will set aside funds for that. So if you are a speaker or a spokesperson for the organization, you have to get it in writing exactly what you're exchanging your presence for. People like Cornel West, they get the contract even before before he even gets the contract. They would contact him and say, hey, we need you at XYZ organization at XYZ time. Are you permissible? This is what our budget is looking like. Is this budget okay with you? And he would answer, oh no, that's not enough money. I need my 25,000. And they said, okay, well, we'll go back and talk to our board of directors and, get back with you. And they're like, okay, yes, we can pay you that, because they really want him. If they really don't have it in their budget, they'll come back and say, well, I'm sorry, we're going to have to pass on you at this time. We found a speaker that's within our budget, and we just can't go over budget. So the main thing is to know exactly who you are, what you are. In the case of these individuals, that is crying foul, if you will, that they're not being subsidized because they have used their face, their likeness, to champion a cause. They have used them to speak out on particular issues, utilizing their grief. Well, these people, they came out of their grief. I don't want to misspeak, but they were guided by these principles. They were not thinking about this as a business entity. Anytime that you're into business, the first thing is okay, this is, they don't see it as a job. They don't see it as a career. And that is a great blinder. So they go into, well, I'm gonna do this out of the kindness of my heart because other mothers need to know, other families need to know this or know that. But the bottom line is that they should have had a PR person or an attorney to negotiate a contract to say that if I speak for Black Lives Matter at this event, that event, I'll get paid X number of dollars, plus plus per diem, hotel expenses, and transportation, air, ground, however have you. Somebody needs to sit down and spell that contract out for each and every event. If they spoke 12 times in a year, then they should have had a lump sum of how much that they would get paid per event. And in the event that they did not make the event, X number of dollars be subtracted, blah, blah, blah. So a lot of times we go into things with the goodness of our heart and the spirit of goodwill, but not the spirit of good business. We go into with the spirit of false hope. People, for me, people have a tendency to think that if you do good, karma says good is going to come back. No, if you don't have any expectations, then it is fulfilled. Nothing comes.
Right.
If you have no expectations.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Somebody got back. I can hear myself. Who
Okay.
got the But anyways, so I'm happy that you explained that what Chief's been saying, because one thing we have to understand, we got to understand the basics. One thing I know, I keep saying this on the show, but I'm gonna keep saying it. One thing that the military have always shown me, you have to understand the basics first before you can understand anything else. I just can't. If I'm like, let's say
told me the same thing.
Yeah, when you're 5 years old, you just don't jump on the bike and instantly you're riding. You got to learn how to, first of all, get on the bike. You got to see if you can reach the pedals.
Get your balance on the back.
Get your balance on it. Even before all that, you got parents that will put on the safety gear and all that stuff. I ain't had no damn safety gear. I just got up on there with regular clothes on and just running. Basically. My mama would help me up. My dad would tell my mom, no, he get up. But what I'm saying is, before we
can you stand up there by yourself? Right.
Yeah, right. So if I was the people that are coming after these activists and coming after Black Lives Matter, I will, situational awareness, I will stop and be like, hold up. Let me do my research. Let me look to see what is actually going on, rather than see, being the peanut gallery. The peanut gallery knows more than anybody. We'll sit there and be like, see, I told you, Teach. And it could be, let's say Teach just slipped up on one thing with the organization. She had this, let's say she had this organization for, let's say P. Diddy. P. Diddy wanted Teach to handle one of his galas in Africa. Let's say Madagascar. I'm just saying. And let's say things fell through. People will jump on that and be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, Teach. See, I knew she was a scam. I knew she just was going to use Diddy and da 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 da." And let's say everybody start putting that Diddy like, yeah, if anything that Diddy is involved with, it's going to go to shit. But not understanding the whole situation, what's going on. Let's say that everything was set up right, but let's say the timing was wrong. Let's say Teach organization funds ran out. I mean, many things and many scenarios could happen, but people just see on the surface.
That didn't involve either one of them.
Right. It could have been something that was out of both of their controls. But you got simpletons. You got simpletons and haters that are just waiting in the weeds just to prove a point that, Teach's organization was a scam. And that's exactly what I see in this case. So as Teach was talking, and I want to apologize for Teach, I hate it when...
Let me stop you right here. I really don't even appreciate you using me as an example.
But Teach, we know the organization is good, honey.
And it's not funny because, like you said, we do have simpletons. And people will take everything out of context.
Yeah. And
not just
and that's
everything.
Yeah, and see, that's the biggest problem. Yeah, that's why I was definitely laughing. I wasn't laughing at you per se, Chief, but I was just laughing at the part where people just react because either they got vendetta against you or anybody, just like Black Lives Matter. There's a lot of people that cannot stand Black Lives Matter and just waiting for it to fall. And then people just going to join the bandwagon and just say, see, I told you this organization is horrible. I told you they raised $90 million and it didn't give none of these families anything. But before I show the tweets, which I want to apologize for Teach when I was sharing the Twitter for Tamika Mallory. One thing I want people to also fully to understand about this too as well. These Teach made up a great point about these scholars getting paid for these engagements. Meaning, when you got the Rice family and you got the Mike Brown families, when whoever is representing Black Lives Matter are sitting at the table talking with them, they should already have the list of demands that they want Black Lives Matter to meet. And then Black Lives Matter should oblige to what they want and saying, okay, this is what we're going to do to help you to get to that. So here's what
they don't have to oblige them. That's just a negotiating tool. And that is a second thing that we feel shy at, the art of negotiation. But most likely these families never been in this situation before, and unless they get a keen, sharp lawyer or a keen, sharp PR person, they're not going to think about down the road because they're in the moment of their grief.
Right, and I think that's the biggest issue. And I remember we was talking about it the other day, that they should have a lawyer or an attorney present to help them out.
Not even that. Not even that. They just need to have that one close, trusted individual that knows how to handle themselves in crisis.
But still, I still think you should. Yeah. You still need a lawyer.
You still want. You still want. But I'm talking about in that moment because you got to think about it. A lot of times, these organizations and these entities, like they're contacted very shortly or in a very short span of the incident, so they're still fresh in the grieving process. So having somebody that may not be professional but still has that professional mindset to be there can still initiate that and get that professional, or say, hey, before y'all do this, we need, make some light. We need to speak to our peoples. Then go find some peoples.
Yeah, because
You know what I'm saying?
because I think it
Because
was
now
just
everybody handles grief different, and like you do have some people that can compartmentalize that enough to handle what need to be handled at that moment, because that is pressing.
yeah.
Giving to your emotions later on behind closed doors.
But I still think that they still need a lawyer. I mean, it's great to have somebody
I agree.
who
I
is
agree.
yeah still
But I say just at that
level-minded,
moment, yeah,
But at that moment,
at that
I see what
moment,
you're saying. And
you're
then they
not
will bring
thinking
a
enough
lawyer
to
in.
have a lawyer. Yeah. But as long
Right.
as you got that type of individual, you know you can get that. Not
Right.
later down the line after and be in a situation like this,
So
right after they approach you.
right. So I think the biggest thing, hearing all this, like I said, we're not talking about just the story itself. We're just talking about any organization like Black Lives Matter that's supposed to help out Black folks. I believe it was just a break in communication, and what Teach was saying about people are afraid to negotiate. Yes, they are supposed to
Mhm.
be there to help you out. They're supposed to help your cause so the media can just report about it one day, and then next minute it's fade, no pun intended, fade to black. It's no longer brought up. Their Black Lives Matter is supposed to keep that cause going and to create systemic changes. So we get that point.
Well, let's look
So
at this.
mhm.
Consider that Black Lives Matter was born out of police brutality, and the women that championed it may not necessarily be Fortune 500 execs. They're just average, everyday people who was able to raise the money, but the money came from big money sources. So them, let's look at their background. Are they even in the frame of mind to know what to offer?
That's a good question, because one of the girls, well, the original three is no longer only two of them is running the organization. One of them is not with them, so right now it's only just two. The other one's doing her own organization that is separate from Black Lives Matter. But still, I still think it was a break in communication on, okay, you're gonna keep our son or our daughter's story alive and to create changes, but they forget about what do we get out the deal. How are you going to compensate us just in case we fall on hard times?
Okay.
Because
Is that even a consideration? At the time that Black Lives Matter start, did they start with $90 million?
That's a
Or
good
well,
point.
yeah, that's a good point.
or did they start like with $3.39 and some dust in their pocket, and over the years they accumulated the $90 million? So
See that
look
takes it in a different perspective too.
Yeah,
at
and
a baby organization with baby thoughts. They
that
grew
just
up.
true. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
So they grew up because police brutality continued to rock our nation, and they continue to grow. So look at a baby organization growing faster um, than normal, so to speak. So even in all the growth and everything happened, they may not even have the time to think, okay, well, we should put this plan together, we should put that plan together and roll this out in our 5-year plan. And even I don't know the history so well, but they may not even thought they would be in existence over a year or over 2 years.
so basically
So,
what you're saying, basically
so
they
what
would
I'm saying
just
is
go ahead, I'm sorry.
margin of error or margin of growth on both sides. from the victim as well as the organizations. A baby organization taking baby steps, and all of a sudden they got big giant size man shoes on. So did they grow as fast as the money grew? Because I'm quite sure when they first started, they probably didn't have an attorney on staff, or one that they contracted with. Now they probably do, because now they have the money to back up those kind of things. So you have to look at the growth of the organization. Like I said, I don't know the organization well enough, but I'm just looking at things from my perspective when I first started and how I grew.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you make decisions because you just don't know when where the next dime is going to come from, and then one day you got a whole bunch of money.
Yeah. So I think my question goes to this. So when they finally got $90 million raised, and this is where the communication comes into play, are they compensated for that money? Should they get a portion of it? And this is what goes back to
the better way to state it. Are they legally obligated by any means to offer some kind of compensation or emotional reparations for it? Because you are speaking of the dead. You're not speaking ill. Other people may be, but you are speaking of the dead, and to hear and see the visual of a lost loved one, especially in a public fashion, that is very emotionally draining. And I have no understanding of the depths of the psychological trauma your mind will be going through.
Okay, that's where it goes back to the beginning.
Some kind of money just, yeah.
Did they accumulate the $90 million all in one day? Is that a total accumulation from the time that they started till today? What is where are the benchmarks for this $90 million? Did they just get $90 million on March the 20? What's the day? The 22nd, 23rd, whatever today is.
24th of March.
The 24th of March. Did they just get $90 million donation today? Or is that an accumulation over time, over years? And if they got it today, where did it come from? Who was the big donor? Was it an accumulation of members, sponsors, partners, donors, grants? What was the breakdown of this $90 million? If it was an accumulation from inception, because they may have had a year that they had like a whole $1,000 on the books.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the things with a nonprofit is that you have to report the money that you make, depending on your level. If it's over, well, you got to report every year.
Right.
And you have to spend that money within that year. Especially if it's grant money, you have to return those funds. You just can't say, "Oh, I guess got a lump sum of money. We met our budget. Now we're going into profits." No, because you're a nonprofit organization, so you have to spend those monies within that budget year. So if I don't know when to, well, I don't want to call any names. Say a person died in 2012. And that's when Black Lives Matter started, and they had a whole budget of $1,000. But now it's 2021, and they have $90 million. According to the reason why they asked for the money, it has nothing to do with 2012. We're dealing with 2021. So just because in 2021 you receive a large cash deposit or accumulated those funds does not mean you can take those funds from 2021 and go back and pay a past debt to 2012, especially if in 2012 you did not write a contract stating that we, the Black Lives Matter, will pay you X number of dollars for your performances. There is no contract. Because see, with nonprofits, everything is a paper trail.
Paperwork. Mm-hmm.
Everything is a paper trail. It has to make sense. Because with the nonprofit, you're trusted with these monies. Because if the federal government go through your taxes and they're like, what? They paid such and such in 2012. They got this money or asked for this money in this capacity, but they're going to spend it in that capacity. We have a case of fraud. Let us put some people in jail. Mm-hmm. So unlike a private business, you just can't spend the money any kind of way that you want. Because when you write a proposal, you're saying, I'm writing this money. I'm writing this proposal for, say, art education. Mm-hmm. This June, I'm going to Tanzania. If I get granted the money, I'm writing this to, one, pay myself a salary as the director of this program, and two, I'm paying for supplies and different things I need in the classroom. And I may even pay a few scholarships because as a charity, I'm allowed to give scholarships for the students to participate in the class. So I spell out exactly what I'm asking for with this money. So when I spend the money, I have to spend it exactly the way I asked for it. So if in 2021, I asked for these $90 million to cover speaker fees in 2022 or 2023, because sometimes they're block grants and they're blocked out for a number of years. So you have to know how to strategize that money. If you're asking for future projects, you're not asking for past projects.
Right. And speaking of that, before we head on to commercial break, so I did look it up on CBS News. They raised $90 million this year, and it's all through $30 donations.
Okay.
So they raised that
hell of an offering right there.
Yeah, so they've been raising that. So they broke it down. They said donations were made up of both partners and individual donations. 10% were recurring, the report said. The foundation spent around $8.4 million in operating costs and committed about 23% of its assets, leaving it with the fiscal balance of $60 million. It goes into saying that Black Lives Matter also distribute $21.7 million to 30 organizations and local BLM chapters, 22 of which were led by LGBTQ organizers. The report also outlines impact with global partners, grassroots voting efforts like in the Georgia runoff, and future plans for additional anti-racism policies to hopefully implement at both the state and national level. So there you have it. So we know where all the money is going to. So nobody can't say that Black Lives Matter got all this money and not doing nothing with it. But yes, Cheech, and we're going to, when we come back, we're going to talk more about when people, like I said, we're not trying to demonize the Brown family or the Rice family, but we're going to talk about more about people being outraged that organizations like Black Lives Matter or people like Tamika Mallory are profiting off the hurt and the pain of Black folks. We will get into it much more when we come back. right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is hashtag Fade to Black. I am your host, Donnell Monte Morris, here with Ania Joe, aka Teach, and Beast Johnson. We already talked about in the first half of the show. We was talking about a nonprofit, how it works, raise money, and then also Black Lives Matter. So now I want to talk about people who say that organizations like this profit off of Black people's pain and suffering. Before I even go even deeper, do y'all believe that's a true statement? Floor is open.
I look at that as a discussion. I ask people to look at these type of organizations like you look at the different preachers that you come across in your experiences in church. Some of them, yeah, they about their hustle and they go out of their way to hustle the congregations and live lavish. A lot of them are very humble and actually trying to be and only ask for enough to be functional and don't actually ask for nothing in some cases. So you got to really look at the bottom line, look at where the money's going. Like you said, they did 8.9 million in operations.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much they spent. Out of that 90 million, they spent roughly 9 mil just to keep everything functioning. And with a nonprofit that much money, most likely they did the black thing. When you get niggas get a lump sum of money and they smart about it, let me go ahead and pay my rent up front for another year or two, pay my lights up for another year or two. How much money I got me pay everything, all my functional stuff I got to pay monthly. Let me go ahead and knock that out for a good extended period of time. So I ain't even got to worry about that. I can focus more. Exactly. Yeah. 8.9, that's saying that they good for another 3 years. Just say 3 years building internet, all the functional utilities. They cover for the next 3 years, just off their 9 mil.
What about you, Teach?
Well, I don't know the organization. I don't know. Well, they met their needs. Yeah. They didn't overspend. It didn't look like they overspent.
Yeah.
By any
that's the question I'm posing as well. Like, we have to actually take a look at them, where anything that outside of their organization that's associated with them, is that being funded by them? You kind of got to get your American greed on, in a sense, and look where the money's going.
Because
now that the money's in, now you got to see where it's going.
Organizations. So, not individuals, but organizations. You didn't read up anything about scholarships for the children of the deceased, or even burial funds for people that may fall in that category. There's ways that they could benefit individuals, but it does, from what you read, it doesn't sound like you have a list for individuals. And I didn't hear anything about speaker fees, because they do have speakers, and everybody that they invite to any rally, campaign, whatever.
Speaker fees are probably under operational. They're probably under operational.
Yeah, they probably like I'm not saying that I'm a guru when it comes to taxes.
No, I'm just off the top of my head. I'm just thinking
they probably moved up.
At this point, it's something functional, so they figured some kind of tax break to label it as a necessity. And
yeah, they probably moved it all under there. But so don't think, ladies and gentlemen, that we are tax experts, but we just basically guesstimating that they probably moved on the operations. But that is a question that can be posed of like, okay, so so where the fees going
what
to? What
is actually defined as operations?
Right.
Under
Could
the
it be
Black Lives Matter organization?
Because you got the headquarters that goes out to all the chapters. So you got to think about, board. You got to think about, flights, rentals, hotel, all those things. So those things that does raise up a lot of questions. Yeah. So
questions for who? Because I'm gonna tell you honestly, when it comes to some people, if anybody want to look at my books, it costs you $300 per hour to look at my books.
With the straightest face, with the straightest face, $300.
300. No shame in teachers.
I'm still throwing off the fact she said Cornell get 25. And he said, but me, I thought she was gonna be humble, say like
20,
just
maybe
under 1,000, maybe like under 5,000. She was like, no, 10 stacks, baby, 10,000. Yes, queen.
Yeah. I mean,
earn your worth.
The thing is, you build a reputation for it. But the thing is that
Exactly.
when I see little petty organizations, they have a $500 budget, and they're like, well, where did 2 cents go to? Pay me $300 and I'll tell you where that 2 cents went to.
That's fair.
That's how you shut up a lot. That's how you shut a lot of folks up. That's how you shut a lot of those quote unquote haters. That's how you shut them up real quick. I ain't got $300 and I damn sure ain't gonna spend it on that.
Right.
They have no concept of money. They have no concept of an operational budget. They have no
They never budgeted their own money, so they don't know how a budget will work. They don't know how to budget their own money.
Exactly. So for people looking at $90 million, it's like, oh, that's a lot of money. And it is. $90 million is a lot of money.
Yeah.
But
depending on how you use it.
But what they covered their expenses with what? 1% of the 90 million, only $8 million. They covered this.
Right at 10%, 8.9. So we just round it out 9%.
Okay, so they covered their expenses. Now they got to think about what they're gonna do with the rest of the money.
You still got 90% in there.
They met their expenses, so now they're way over budgeted in terms of income. So they have to.
For a nonprofit.
So that's a point of growth, of major growth. Can they,
immense growth.
Exactly. They mention organizations, but were the HBCUs part of that organization? Were the police departments part of the organization for training? Mm-hmm. Right. So they mentioned a lot of organizations which are furthering their cause. It's probably looking like a tree. If you can imagine Black Lives Matter as the base or the trunk of the tree, and then all of the branches, you had I don't know, they could be giving money to the police department for better training. They could be giving it to the social service department so the families can get psychological trauma treatment. They could be giving it to
be working with athletes.
Funeral homes to cover burials of people who don't have the money to bury their care. We don't know all this information. This is just surmising, and I think it's a great idea. I think, however they're able to spend the money, fine. What we have not heard, and I hope that we don't hear, they took entourage of 500 people to Vegas and spent $3 million on airfare and a private. And they had a cocaine room, or I don't know what they call it. Had a dope room with all they wanted. Then they had a sex room. As long as we don't hear that, please, I'm fine.
Yeah,
I'm fine. Like I didn't give to the organization, so it don't take anything away from me.
What you don't want to hear.
I just have not.
You don't want to hear Black Lives Matter as a trendy, Black Lives Matter is now purposely going out of their way to get more notable speakers. Like, instead of getting credible people to speak on the subject, now you're getting trendy folks. Now you want to spend a couple $1 million to get Beyonce at a rally or some shit like that.
All right. So we kind of getting off of the question that I asked everybody getting on. So let's get back on track. So, do you believe that organizations like Black Lives Matter profit off of Black people's pain and grief?
I say no. And even if they do, no more so than any other white capitalistic American entity that's been here before most of our time. So if anything, they just falling in line if that's the case. But honestly, I don't believe that. Not in the case of Black Lives Matter.
I believe that that question is an insult, and I would not dignify it with an answer.
Oh, okay.
As a nonprofit, I
Yeah,
would expect nothing less.
yeah. Because the reason why I pose that question and not trying to insult, because we
No, no.
do
I
got,
just teach. I
we
speak as the ignorant, like because honestly, I was listening to you the whole time talking about nonprofits. Because I honestly, I speak for the ignorant masses that don't truly know what a nonprofit is and what's going on. I just happen to be a little smarter, and I like American greed, so I understand most of it.
yeah.
But
So
honestly, I don't know what it is. So I'm definitely I respect you for that because as a nonprofit, that is kind of a disrespectful, kind of backhanded question. No disrespect to Donnell, but
yeah,
just that's how it can be inferred and
right, and
potentially implied,
yeah,
not
and this is
necessarily implied.
right. But the reason why I asked that
Oh,
question,
please.
I'm sorry. Go ahead and get teach off real quick, y'all ladies and gentlemen. Let me go ahead and mute a mic. All right, so
Girl, I'm on my
so
podcast. Girl, be serious.
hey, Teach, once you're done, just give me a thumbs up. So the reason why I asked that question, and I'm for some reason I'm think I'm walking on eggshells, but this is what this
No,
show is all about. I mean,
it's
this is what
it's
this
an
show,
honest. No,
right?
I go
It's
back to American Greed. It's
yeah,
if anybody is watching the podcast has actually watched American Greed, it will make you, if you watch it for a full 2 seasons, you will be extremely paranoid and uber vigilant to the point of Punisher like violence when it comes to your money. Because you see people and entities of all walks of life and all forms of business, the highest of notable people to the nobodies of nobody, get hustled for millions over noble, logical, rational, and yes, a lot of times get rich quick schemes. But a lot of these things there are some cases of nonprofits or that was their claim, and that's how they filed themselves, but they were on that Ponzi scheme shit.
mm-hmm.
So like I said,
Yeah,
as somebody that don't know a whole lot, I understand where you're coming from with that question.
yeah.
It's just
So
a critical criticism that you have to ask nowadays
right,
because there is so much greed across the board,
right,
and it's supposed everybody's not noble when they're stating a noble cause.
and so the reason why I asked that question is basically in response to what the family of Mac Brown and Tamir Rice's are saying. They're saying that we have not been compensated. Black Lives Matter, Tamika Mallory, and Ben Crump left us in the dust. So here's the list of our demands. These
Or at
are
least here's our
questions,
receipts, here's
right?
our evidence. At least
These are
prove.
questions. Yeah, these are questions that I have to ask. I like I said, I didn't mean no disrespect to
No,
Teach at all, but I
see,
just
like
didn't
that.
know.
That's why
I
I'm here.
see. I just don't want to
That's why
say
I'm
it
here.
because the thing is, I don't want to. I don't know any other way but to be a straight shooter when it comes to this, because how I feel about people coming out like this, it makes us look bad.
Listen,
This is, ladies and gentlemen, this is me. It makes us look bad because when it's like this, let's say Beast helped me out. Let's say I'm on, dire straits. I'm homeless, don't have no food, lost my car, knock on wood. And Beast, he put me into his house. He let me stay up in his house, and
and I've actually done that.
right,
I've
and
actually done that.
right, and he took
Yeah,
care of
I've had it
me.
done for me, so I'll be damned if I don't do it.
Right. So let's say Beast helped me out. He gave me a place to stay till I got on my feet, and be casa su casa, got a job, and contribute. But now I'm living on my own. I got my own place. But the thing was, I forgot to save money. I'm just saying hypothetical. I forgot to save money while I was staying with Beach. Me, I would, since I'm back on my feet, I got a car now. I got a good paying job. Me and Beast go out clubbing from time to time. I go get groceries, nice clothes and all that stuff.
Like I said back earlier, you just haven't figured out how to budget. You gotta re-budget every time you get a job. Every time you got a different pay schedule. Every time you get money in, it's gonna be on some kind of basis, no matter the level of consistency. You gotta budget that shit out.
Yeah, and so now I've got to save. I got the apartment. I put down the down payment for the lease, but now I don't have enough money to even make it for the next rent. Should I blame Beast for him not helping me with that? Should I be like, yo, Beast, you let me in your house, dog. You help me, get a job, help me get back on my feet. Why are you not helping me with my rent and all that stuff? Even though that's kind of a terrible analogy, that's what I see with this.
It's because there's some progression, like the whole Mike Brown. It goes back to what I said earlier. Y'all, it pays to have a level-headed person, no matter how traumatic the situation is. Mm-hmm. Perfect example: my mother's death. Worst thing an individual can go through, especially if you discover the body. Yeah, so having to deal with that. Thank you. I'm at a better place now where I can speak on this, because at the time it befuddled everyone as to why I handled myself the way I did, because I was very calm and collected with everything, with all these people coming in and sympathies and family acting funny and silly. No, I still handle myself how I need to be. And I told them straight up, I got a sister that gets a check, and I got a 5-year-old nephew at the time. The rent paid up till next month. I got to figure out what we're going to do. So the quicker I figure that out, the quicker I can get the morning. I'll cry when y'all leave. But right now, I got to make sure they good.
Yeah.
But at least we got somewhere stable. I worry about the other emotional stuff. That's what you got to do though, and it helps to move forward. And even I had somebody logical and level headed with me to keep me there when the emotions hit. But nonetheless, that level headed energy is always needed, and if you can come across it, keep hold of it. Stay true to it, because Lord forbid when that situation happens, you want that type of individual and energy around you to make sure that you can grieve properly, but you can move forward.
But do you think it's disrespectful how the families came out and just came on Twitter and just saying, well, they didn't support us either way? Because I always preach on the show, I'm all about handling things closed doors.
I agree with you there, but then I go back to my distinction of my opening statement. When those earlier families were still grieving, I don't believe it was still the movement primarily, and
what it is now.
Organization hadn't truly formed and became whole or became known. So it was primarily the movement. Now what we're talking about now is more of a full form organization. We had the organization. Now the organization has come in line with the movement. So for discussion term we'll call the corporation. So now we have the corporation. But at the time of their grieving, they were only dealing with the movement. And the movement was just protest and awareness and getting that kind of doing that street team shit for the organization to say, hey, we are the organization that's going to help do the business aspect of it. So any funds that you would like to donate will go towards this entity, the organization. Now they come in line as the corporation. Their grief is really more with the movement. And the movement wasn't doing no money. And even if they talked in line with the organization, back to what T said, did y'all have anything in paper or at least text conversations? If you ain't got the paperwork or a digital imprint, it makes any claim that you say or make questionable.
All right. So,
but if you come with that, then it seems a little more feasible, whatever claim you make.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and rephrase the question, unless T don't want to step in with anything.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that Beast brings up a good point. What I was saying earlier, but he made it a little more clear that when they started out, they were a movement. And then they grew into an organization. So what are their financial responsibilities? To past speakers. I think I just keep coming back to the motive for bringing this out at this time. Is it to discredit Black Lives Matter and
or
what
is it to
they have been able to accomplish? You know, people have always, and I guess this is where we need Professor O. He was against Black Lives Matter because they were led by a team of LGBTQ, and I may not have those properly.
Yeah, you're right. And George Soros.
Yeah.
And so, and then they have a hidden agenda that I do know that when they went to Nigeria, they went on the face of Black Lives Matter, but that hidden agenda was the LGBTQ. And the Nigerians, basically pushed them out of the meeting. We didn't bring you here for this. No. You're going to do what they call the underlay for the overplay or the overplay for the underlay. That's how they operated in that particular instance. So with that, are we seeing an attack on Black Lives Matter? One, because they have become popular, because they have opened up the hearts of America and the wallets of America to get that $90 billion. So is this an attack on the organization to defame the organization, to distract from what good it may have done?
And see, I was about to also rephrase the question a bit on, was there any other way that this could have been taken care of? Because
there's always another way,
right? And
there's
always
once again, a more private, civil way to handle anything.
And then once again, it goes back to my opening statements of the knee-jerk reaction. If this organization was helping you out, and using Teacher's point, it was just a movement that just caught fire. Now it's an inferno that got your cause out there. People know Tamir Rice. They know who Mike Brown is. They always say it in their protests, say their names, Mike Brown. Say their names, Tamir Rice.
Sandra Bland.
Mm-hmm. Sandra Bland. George Floyd. All these names. All these names. And They did this for you. And at least you could have, if you had any issues with this organization, why couldn't you give them a call? Because I know they probably had a representative or somebody from that chapter in that community that they had direct contact to, or to talk about it like, hey, what is going on, rather than blasting it out there on social media. Because now you got, like I said, you got all the peanut gallery who was just waiting for a moment like this to sit there and say, see, I told you Black Lives Matter was up to no good. They don't care about black folks. And then you got the other side, they sit there, and I'm thinking that Black Lives Matter is kind of feeling kind of slighted too, of like, damn, we went through all of this for you to put this out on blast. You had to go on Twitter to say that you near homelessness, that you don't have no job. You have all these things that's not going for you, but you couldn't pick up a phone or send an email to tell us we have an issue. Houston, we have a problem. And I wouldn't even do that to my own worst enemy. It goes back to what I was saying about, Beast Johnson, using the analogy of him helping me out, but now I'm on my feet. Now I'm expecting Beast to support me every step of the way, knowing that he got his life to live. It's always a way of trying to do things rather than just going on blast and just letting people know, what is going on, and just letting people know your business when it should have been just kept between me and Beast. Or in this case, just between them and Black Lives Matter.
Well, see, she took to the public. She wanted public opinion to sway them in her favor. It seems like if she didn't have a job, and if she felt that they could do anything, they could have put a good word in for her. What is her skill set? I don't know. She could have sent a resume and say, hey, I'm struggling here.
Right.
I need to find a job.
I just feel like
help me, or
an
what?
Email.
So
show me an email or a screenshot from a text conversation that says, you just reached out. You reached out first, and over either you made you made 3 good attempts to reach out, or 2 good attempts over a respectable amount of time. Both was unsuccessful. Okay, I would feel more aligned to, let me take it to the public, especially if my name is already in the public. I give it 3 good times.
I said a step further, Beast. You're supposed to cover your bases. It's just
black. Let's keep it real. As black folk, ain't we not? We should be used to paperwork. Most of us in the court for various reasons, whether it be felonious or paternal. So you got paperwork. Why when you apply that same logic to the rest of your life? If there ain't no paperwork, folk don't believe it.
And then also, I'm getting the feeling that she did have a job. I don't know if she quit because she had this, I believe at this time was just a movement behind her, and she thought that they was going to support her every step of the way.
That's something you ask first.
Right.
When it comes to money, you get that acknowledged up front. And most times you want to at least get secure fee. Like, hey, just to show you, hey, this little bit of money I'm giving you right now, just to let you know, Mo is coming. I'm on line to quit my job now.
Right. And see, this goes back to what Tisha was saying about negotiating, not being afraid to negotiate. So you don't have to quit from your job. I don't know if she quit or if they fired her because of the situation that she was in, or they just didn't want anything to do
But
with
if
her
that's the
because
case,
she was part of
that's
Black
grounds
Lives
for
Matter. And see,
that's grounds for possible litigation anyway. So if she's
right.
talking about money, the example you just gave, the two examples you just gave, depending on the state, but even still, that's still grounds for some kind of civil dispute over wrongful termination.
Right. And see, and these are
And with your name,
questions.
that's an easy settlement.
Right. And see,
No
and this
job
and
with that kind of heat.
right. And see, and this is the issue when people do a knee-jerk reaction and they just go on Facebook or Twitter and they voice their displeasure, not only just with the organization, but like with anything. And then you come to find out that they're up to no good anyway. I'm not saying that they are, but people are going to be researching you now.
Derrick Jackson.
So if you sit there saying that you was homeless, you don't have a job, anybody with a brain in their head and got a little bit of sense would ask you, did you have a job before this? And if you did,
you filed for unemployment.
Right. And then if you did, what happened? Because if you got fired because your job didn't like you being associated with Black Lives Matter, then it goes to what Beats is saying. You should have put in a civil case. You should have
threatened them with
right, yeah, you should have lawyered up and took their tail to court.
No job wants to be known as the job that fired Tamir Rice's mama after she buried her boy. You did what? What's that job? Because we're not supporting it. That bitch getting canceled tonight.
Right. I mean, so by us raising questions on the people that she called out, or anybody that's calling out organizations that's supposed to help them out, that also opens the door for questions for you too. People going to ask questions, reporters going to ask questions like, okay, so when this was happening and you don't have no job now, what's stopping you from getting a job now? Yeah, like
no, it's a question of time, and the once you establish the time, because I just went through a situation with a former friend where we had a falling out many years ago. He knew he was in the wrong, but it took him up until recently to actually reach out to me. And I said, okay, I can forgive you, but what I can't forgive is the amount of time. That was begs the question, because the question I asked, if you truly felt this way, why didn't you just make it known right then and there? It took you over 3 years. So why you wait till now?
Mm-hmm.
What you got going on in your life that made you feel like I need to reach out and do this? That's the question we're asking to them right now. What you got going on?
What about you, Teach, before I introduce the sponsor for the second half of the show?
I would just say that it brings up questions on all sides. The why would she choose to go to public first before contacting them is all suspect. Then that sense of entitlement, or a sense of she may be feeling like she was used by them because now they have this $90 million. At the time that she served her time, they only had $3.39. And so she may be feeling used and abused, but that is something that I think that she should approach with an attorney and say, hey, how can you help me? I know at the time that they started, they didn't have any money. We talked about it or whatever have you, whatever the conversation was, and you got on the bandwagon and you were the spokesperson and so forth and so on. How can we get back pay?
Right.
For services rendered. How can we do that? And proceed forward. That would have been the logical way to go. And I don't know what type of relationship she had with them. Did she fall out with them? That she don't feel like she could pick up the phone and call and say, hey, You know, I did hear y'all came into some money, and I'm
Right.
still on hard
That's how
time.
it come off. That's how it come off.
You
Yeah.
know, so I mean,
No,
did she
no,
fall out with them that she could not even pick up the phone or shoot an email, or did she pick up the phone and like, girl, play? Anybody think about you? Click. We don't know,
Yeah.
but it makes me wonder. This did that type of scenario take place, and if not, what escalated? Why was this the first move versus another move? Should be like third in line or whatever. After you hit a couple of stone walls, then you go this way. If you wanted to be in a place of animosity, because this breeds animosity. This doesn't breed, let's sit down and negotiate. Let's see how we can compensate you. It breeds animosity. So,
mm-hmm.
why was she in that place? Why did she feel she had to try to make trouble to get help? And you know, it's like, I'm gonna cut you with this razor and force you to do right by me because I did something out of the goodness of my heart, out of the grieving for my child. You can't cut and expect to get a positive um, reaction. They say sugar and honey draws, the sweetness draws. So her method of attempting to negotiate, she's still not negotiating properly. She's coming out as the enemy. She's putting them on the defense. Um, so I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the story. I don't know how it's going on. But it if she gets, if they respond to this like, okay, come on, let's go behind closed doors. We're gonna cut you a few, you know, and just let it die. Now you also signed a statement that you're gonna stay off social media, blah blah blah. You're not gonna keep our name in your mouth, or we will come back and sue you. So um
What
for
they call
me,
that? Cease and desist, right?
No, no,
yeah.
no. That's an NDA. That's a non-disclosure agreement. That means whatever happened, it's kind of, AKA the Vegas rule. What
Right.
happened here, and only God know about it. And if you
Mm.
speak on it,
Mm.
I will ruin your fucking life and everyone
Okay.
that's ever
Yeah.
connected to you. Like it's that type of deal.
Okay, cool. I thought it would be more under the cease and desist
Now,
type. But go ahead,
cease and
teach.
desist is on some tip like if she can persist and continues with this action,
Then
then
I'm gonna sue you.
they could have then they could eventually, that's what they would do. They would do a cease and desist or a gag order
Mhm.
to stop her. And if we want to consist out of that, now she getting sued.
Go ahead, teach. I ain't meant to cut you off at your point.
That was it.
Yeah. So now let's go to the activist. So I'm gonna go ahead and post this Twitter comment that Tamika Mallory was responding to. So the comment, let me go ahead. I don't know why I was doing it on my screen. So this is what she was responding to, Tamika Mallory. So I'm gonna give y'all a chance to read, and then we can just go from there.
Oh, she coming after Sean King, Benjamin Crump.
And if you go over here, you see her response. So with this, hopefully I'm not interrupting y'all reading, but with this, you hear a lot about activists that goes out. I'm gonna use Al Sharpton for example.
Now, hold on. I got a question to teach, because if I read that correctly, that initial tweet is for the foundation, a building purchased by the mother who started the foundation, which I'm presuming at this point in the conversation is another nonprofit. So it's a nonprofit asking for money from another nonprofit.
Now, keep in mind.
Is that what I'm seeing here? Just
Now, keep in mind, Tamika Mallory is not part or associated with Black Lives Matter.
yeah, that's what I'm glad you said that because as I'm just reading from what is actually being presented here.
Right.
This is a request for the foundation, not for the actual family. Yes, in her name, but that's the foundation. That's a nonprofit. So that money's going to the nonprofit.
So to be fair, this is the main part that I really want, that we really talking about, because there's other parts to this too. Basically, in a nutshell, saying how these people that she listed wasn't helping at all. So with people coming, like I said, the peanut gallery coming at Tamika Mallory and all these folks that's in this tweet, they think that they're all a part of Black Lives Matter, which, ladies and gentlemen, there are not. You got Benjamin Crump got his own law firm that's not in association with Black Lives Matter or Tamika Mallory or Shaun King. Shaun King got his own organization. Tamika Mallory got her own organization. And then you got Black Lives Matter who got their own organization. Once again, it goes back to the knee-jerk reaction where
you just have multiple nonprofit organizations working congruently with each other.
Basically,
the main one and the primary one being Black Lives Matter, but all the names listed, aside from Tamir Rice's mother, are with Ben Crump being the lawyer, everyone else, nonprofit organizations working congruently with a lawyer, Ben Crump, and the other organization corporately known as Black Lives Matter because they got corporate money.
Right, and they thinking that Ben Crump works for Black Lives Matter. Tamika Mallory works for Black Lives Matter. Shaun King works for Black Lives Matter. They do not work with Black Lives Matter. I think the only thing that they come close, I think, I get ready to say it, they're associated with them. Right. They're associated, but they are not employees or part of the
contributors.
I would say that contribute. I think contributor is the best word to this organization. And see, like I said, the peanut gallery will jump on this and it will think that all these people that is mentioned in this tweet works for Black Lives Matter, which is not true. When you actually do your due diligence and actually do your research, you will understand that these are all different entities that are mentioned here. So I'm happy that Tamika Mallory did respond. But like I said, but it just leads to a big question. Are these activists that goes out to these communities, do they actually care for the progress for these families, or are they actually just doing it for the clout and for the money? And to tell you the truth, in
the case of Ben Crump, lawyer, I could see that question being somewhat valid. For the other one, just off the top, the rest of them, I would kind of have to look at their social media and internet presence to know for sure, because. Like going back to what I'm saying, like you gotta see where the money's going. And in the case of these activists and philanthropists, a lot of them want to be seen, so they get as the Kim Kardashians,
right?
If you will. I want to get myself linked up with the right people. So if you see them notably like pushing themselves more out to be in causes or events for causes that have certain people as opposed to just the cause itself, then yes,
So,
they in it for more selfish ulterior motives.
I
so
disagree. I
go ahead,
believe
Tina.
Benjamin Crump. He is a civil attorney, and people misunderstand his role. They think that he is a criminal attorney, and that is not what he does. So he does not go after prosecuting um, the individuals that committed the crime. He more goes for changing some laws and or getting civil money. And so he gets a bad rap on that end. He is an attorney, he is qualified. They could use anyone, but because he has risen his profile, he has become the one. He is he replaced Johnny Cochran, though even though Johnny Cochran was I believe he was a criminal attorney, but Johnny Cochran was the man that you called if you was had that kind of case. So Benjamin Crump
As a
is the
black
man
man,
you call if you have that
Yeah,
kind of case. And so
yeah.
so he gets a bad rap because people don't know the difference between a criminal attorney and a civil attorney. And then if he wasn't good at what he does, they wouldn't call him.
this is true,
And
and it
some of
was
the
yeah.
cases are pro bono. Some of the cases he does not even get paid on because the people don't have the money to pay him.
Mm-hmm.
So he looks at, okay, if I give my services, my pay would be reputation. My pay would be prestige.
Right.
It's a high profile case. Even if I don't get 1 cent, I get my profile elevated. So in that regard, professionally
And I could
speaking,
back
he's
in
doing
that to
what
some
he's
other
supposed to
stuff.
do. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
he's doing what he's supposed to do to position himself. And once he positioned himself, then he can get to a place where he said, no more, no pro bonos. I have an organization. I have my new attorney straight out of law school handle you. You won't
Right.
see me. My name will go on it because it's my firm, but because I'm so big now, I can give you to the small people. So for him, no. For the other people, community activists, they don't do it initially for the money. They do it because of the heinousness of the crime. And it's the heinous of the crime that keeps them doing it. Because I don't know when Black Lives Matter started, but they just got a payday. So what kept them going? Was it did they kept going because like one day we gonna get a payday, one day we gonna get a payday, or
This
we
shouldn't have
need to
stopped.
reform the police department. We need to reform and look at police brutality. We need to do this, this, and the other. That's what kept them going.
Right.
That's what kept them going. And then in the light of it, if these people didn't have full-time jobs, how are they going to eat anyway?
Right. Right.
How are they going to pay rent? That's the reason why they get incorporated as a nonprofit, because the weight of these issues escalated. And so if they did work a full-time job and their heart was really committed, they walked away from the job because they believed in what they were doing. I don't believe I do know that there are some unscrupulous people that move because they can see the benefit financially. There are people out there like that. But seriously, with the issues that we have with police brutality in our community, those people were angels to take up the banner and raise awareness to start a movement that later became an organization. They were angels because they were speaking the language that we would not speak. They were speaking for us because we were too busy at our jobs. We were too busy chasing our money. We take 5-10 minutes to say, okay, yeah, that's bad. Oh yeah, police brutality, blah, blah, but I gotta go to work, man. I'm gonna cut this conversation off. And they were the ones that said, I can't come in today. I gotta call people. I gotta get we gotta make a change. These were the people that sacrificed their lives. However, they sacrificed. So, no, when it's causes like this, they don't sit and say, how much money can I make for this? Knowing that you're dealing with the black community ain't giving you no money.
You're right.
Black community is not giving you any money.
Right, and Teach, you spitting everything that I was thinking in my head. Yeah. It's just a simple fact that it goes back to that entitlement. I'm like, why are you feeling entitled?
Because they went on the front line. $90 million.
Right, and even beyond the $90 million, you got these other people with different organizations that's not even associated with Black Lives Matter. This is the thing that blows my mind, when you think you're the smartest person in the room, but then somebody had to get up and just school you and tell you.
It's they're lumping it all together. It's just like you go to just like you go to a shopping mall and it has many stores, and say 6 of those stores sell gym shoes or sports athletic wear. And you go to store number 1 and you buy a pair of shoes, and by the time you get to store number 6, you don't like the shoes, and you think you can exchange them at store number 6. They're not affiliated. They're in the same mall. They sell the same merchandise, but they're not affiliated. You got to go back to store number 1 where you bought them from. And that's where people lose it. They're like, well, it's at a mall. You sell the same thing that person sells, so you should be able to give me back my money that I spent with them. It's illogical thinking. And people suffer from that from time to time. Often. Very often.
Yeah, I'm going here. I'm gonna give me some pizza from Sal's Pizza, but I didn't like it, so I'm gonna go over here to this Sal's Subway, knowing they're 2 different things, even though they got the same name.
No, that's like going to Popeyes and getting a 2-piece, and then going across the street to Bojangles and demanding a refund.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. It blows my mind, because once again it goes back to the knee-jerk reaction, where people just jump off the handle and not understanding why they're jumping off the handle. Now, Tamika Mallory. Now, I'm going to speak on behalf of Tamika Mallory, because we already talked about Black Lives Matter. We already talked about Benjamin Crump. Tamika Mallory been doing this, I think, going over 30 years. She looked like she's my age, Beach Johnson's age. But she's up there in age. She has been a victim of police brutality. So for anybody to equate her and a scam makes me question you for even saying that. Because she been on the front line. I believe she's a attorney herself, I believe. I could be wrong, but I know she got a degree in law. So for her to be put in that type of conversation, it blows my mind. But the main reason why she was getting the scrutiny that she was getting was because she showed up on the Grammys. She did a piece. I forgot who did the little concert, and she did a piece in that performance, which led to what's going on now. And honestly, I see nothing wrong with that. Now, if she was like
P. Diddy, y'all getting mad because she wasn't in the crowd.
She was
She
she was
came
in the
out there to
performance.
do. Okay, she was a component of a performance.
And you want to know what she did in that performance?
Talk.
One, talking about police brutality.
Okay, so
Talking about unity. All the things that she's been preaching she was doing, she did that in the performance. So
okay, so maybe it's just the weed I've been smoking throughout the podcast, but I'm just trying to figure out why people mad now. Like
which is
why?
a good question. It's you know, it's great.
Okay, thank you. So it's not the weed.
Yeah,
This is me. Thank you.
it it's great to know that it is on a platform where the Grammys being shown to millions of people who tuned into it, even though their ratings went down from last year, but still got a big platform that people can see the plight of what's going on in Black America. Not America, but Black America. So for anybody coming at Tamika Mallory for doing that, you only hurting yourself and you hurting the cause. You shooting yourself in your foot. Now, which lead me to this, because we're coming up on top of the hour. Pay. Now, the question is, should people like Tamika Mallory get paid? I believe yes.
Get paid
But
for
then
what?
I'll get paid for representing people.
Oh, if she charge a fee or she won't work.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's because, I mean, if she want to do it for free, that's on her. Or for any activist, if they want to go out there and do it for free, kudos on them. But if they ask for a fee, because I know we touched on it a little bit when it comes to nonprofit, but now we're just talking about just the activists themselves. If they do a fee, it's always easy if you can't afford it. It's always to say thank you, but no thank you.
And,
It's
and
always
even
easy to
then,
turn down.
what you're questioning, an activist. I've never heard of an activist even asking for some kind of compensation other than the public gratification and acknowledgement of being for the cause. Speakers, yeah, I can see that. Notoriety, eloquence, understanding of the knowledge, how you actually project them and connect with the audience you're speaking to. Yeah, I can understand a fee, but an activist, if there's some compensation that is given for your time and your travels, because once again, this is 2021. This ain't biblical. So,
Yeah. So speaking of that, we are on the
Activists
topic.
have always activists has always relied on the public for survival. The likes of Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, um, John Lewis, all of them have benefited or relied upon at some point in time on the public to support them because they were the voices of change. They were the brave ones that went to the front lines while everybody else was at work. They were on the front lines waging a war on injustice with the civil rights movement. So they may not have been able to say, "Hey, I don't know, $5,000 to speak here, there, or whatever." But organizations like the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLSC, was a major force behind Martin Luther King. They paid for him to go where he needed to go and housed and lodged him and gave him stipend money for living because Martin Luther King was a preacher. Uh, but I don't know if he was full time. So they had financial sources that backed them. Jesse Jackson and Rainbow Coalition.
Mm-hmm.
They helped support them because you didn't hear Reverend Jackson or Martin Luther King going to forge to work every day or when they weren't in the fields. So they had to create bases in order to survive. Now, how well supplied or stocked those organizations were, or how well the people took care of them, I don't know. I can't say offhand, but I just know that the people were inclined to send them donations to help as an activist because that was their job. And so, and the people know. They know they wasn't. They know they was at work, and they know they not punching the time clock. They understood that they were worthy of their hire.
And speaking of that, we were 3 minutes over the top of the hour. So everybody get back to your quarters. We're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we got a community to visit. Yes, we're going to visit Beast Community. And straight after that, we got a ticket and our passport to head to Africa. And with that, we will be right back.
I want to kind of switch off to a different facet of politics, romantic politics. Talk about this whole other social media issue of the guru Darren Jackson versus Kevin Samuels. If those know who they are, they're basically, in a nutshell, an individual and part called this. Excuse me. They are two individuals that display the difference between honesty and pandering. Mr. Jackson is an individual who tends to pander more to his audience, critique his wording and verbiage for specific purpose, usually that in the form of some kind of novel or advice book. Whereas Mr. Samuels, these are going by their visuals and their videos. He's pretty much just blunt. doing multiple things, handling what he got to handle, treating this like a regular conversation on his other phone, on the laptop, sipping on some drink. Shit. Tell you what it is, because it is what it is. Now, yes, he has his own setups that he's established as a result of the increased favor and acceptance of his truth and people finding success in his truth. So he's established and maintained a nice little following and accrued some monetary gain from that. As a result, that was never the direct path. That's the difference between honesty and pandering. You're in this situation now with Mr. Jackson. You're preaching that women should find better men and that men that don't do right should be left alone. And apparently you were one of them individuals in this case and have been the entire time you were making these videos. So now it comes a question of, are you going to practice what you preach? Because you done told all these other women, if your man ain't shit, leave his ass. Well, apparently you ain't shit neither, nigga. But I digress. Even after doing a, we'll say, structured apology video, you then have the narcissistic audacity to do a reaction video to your video while plugging a book at 50% off. That's that pandering bullshit right there. We got to understand the distinct difference between, because the stuff you don't want to hear, that's the shit you need to hear. If it make you feel some kind of way about hearing it, it's for a good reason. It's stirring the spirit. It's waking it up. Feed me more of that shit right there. That's what it's saying to you. If it ain't feeling it in here or in here, you don't need to listen to it. If it sound good up here, no. Your mind is your greatest asset and also your most vulnerable ally. It can be easily swayed. You gotta go with this gut and that heart. Use that to determine. Because when you pander and when you fall for the pandering, you're just falling for the same bullshit that other forms of politics that we do know about have been doing to you your whole fucking life. So I can hope you can understand the difference and understand the difference real soon. Because like Brother Mayo Hustle Man say, we ain't got but a couple more years before we lose what political favor we do have at this moment. So you need to understand who's pandering to us and who's telling us the fucking truth. Because the ones that's telling us the fucking truth and making us feel some kind of way, that's the ones we need to get behind 100%. That's the ones we need to follow into Valhalla on some damn epic Leonidas 300 shit. Because that's the one that's going to get us to the promised land and actually going to see if we can get some change done. Because it make you feel some kind of way, which means it's supposed to be said. Think of it as God just stirring your spirit up to get you to do right. That's why you feel some kind of way when you hear things that you don't like. It ain't for you to like. It's for you to learn from, to take in, and apply to your life to make it better, more pleasing in His eye, as all you Christians would say. But I hope you enjoyed this time down here in my community. Get your passports ready. We're going to go take it back to the motherland. I yield the floor to the illustrious Teach. Please educate us today.
Karibu means welcome in the tongue of the Swahili speaking people of Tanzania. And I have been chosen is one of the instructors for the very first Summer Institute hosted by TIE, which is the Teaching Artists Institute based in Baltimore, Maryland, which I am an elder and serve on the board of directors. It's going to be held in Tanzania from June the 7th through the 21st. As you know, we had a wonderful time in Tanzania the last time, and because we made such an impact on the community, they asked us to come back, but this time for 3 entire whole weeks to teach a summer institute that will uplift, motivate, and inspire the students. But not only is this institute for students, it's for any artists that want to come and engage. It is for professors if they want to take a sabbatical from their regular teaching, and the regular community. So we invite you out. You can go to my Facebook page, African Roots and Heritage Study Travel, and find out all you need to find out about the Summer Institute. It's going to be a lot of fun. And you know that the Tsuva University is located on the beach. So I will be going to the beach every day and getting more of a tan. And what else can I say? I'll see you in Tanzania. If you really want to go, inbox me. We have several trips coming up this year. So inbox me. Come and enrich your life. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. Kwaheri, Yakukaona. Goodbye until we meet again.
Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I'd like to shout out to both our sponsors. Even though I wasn't quick to say Sky Zone Society, forgive me. Sky Zone Society sponsored the second half of the show, and then the first half was Real Boy Popcorn. Big shout out to them. Thank you so very, very much. And also, as well as my panel, Bringing the Heat. Like always, Teach was very, she was shooting those threes. I thought she was almost calling Steph Curry today, but I'm just gonna keep it to myself. But other than that, just shoot those threes. I couldn't even guard. But anyways, to sum up the topic of today, if you feel that organization, a group, or a person is not doing something best in your interest, do it yourself. Now, I'm not saying this out of defense of Black Lives Matter or Tamika Mallory or Benjamin Crump or Sean King. I'm not saying it out of defense. Like the old saying goes, if you want something done right, you do it yourself. When I first heard that saying, I didn't understand what it was. But as I got up in age and my horizons start to broaden, I really began to understand what it meant. Because there are times where you can't put all your chips and all of your everything into a person, because they probably won't reciprocate that back to you. You're going to have people that's going to use you up. You have people that just don't give a damn about you. Or you could just have people just being people. So create your own organization. Create your own group. Be your own beacon of light. Black Lives Matter should not be the end all be all, or any one of these individuals that was mentioned in the show. That's why this show is created. That's why we got a person like Teach on the show. Why we got Beast Johnson on the show. And not only just a show, Teach got her thing that she got going on. Beast got his thing, what he got going on. And so do I. Nobody is not gonna live this life for you. Nobody's not gonna do it for you. Only person that can do for you is you. Only person that could be stepping in your way is you. If you feel that everything is done wrong, everything that you trust somebody to do and it just craps all over the place, fix it and do it yourself. Fire that person. Pretend you never met him or her. You got mind, heart, soul, hands, arms, legs, and feet. Nobody can't use them but you because it's attached to you. And if that was the case, I think we all will be allowing somebody to live our lives now. Because somebody is not enjoying life right now. And if we were able just to switch lives with somebody, it would. But guess what? We can't. So for all y'all in the peanut gallery that want to hate on Black Lives Matter or any groups like it and thinking that they can't do much for black folks and they got all this money and not giving back to the communities, why don't you get off your happy ass and make something happen? Don't always talk the talk. Do the walk. And put your words into action. And then you come talk to me. And with that, I yield the floor.
Little grammar lesson for everybody. Homonyms and synonyms. Words that sound the same but spell different. Words that spell the same but sound different. You gotta start learning the distinctions. Because going back to what we stated earlier, the movement was the initial catalyst that brought upon the structured form of the organization that led to a corporate windfall to ensure that the organization could move forward efficiently. It's sad that any situation like this had to lead up for doing this shit. It's just sad we got to talk about it in this kind of callous form, but nonetheless, there's a clear distinction about who was impacting who at what time. And you need to understand this and acknowledge it before you start wanting to delegate compensation. Because the entity that was in the beginning was a poor, free movement that was just trying to get the awareness out there, like a damn street team movement. I had that CD for our artists from a label. The shit they used to do in the 90s. They ain't really get paid. Most of them just got paid with free club intros, them label swag. They did it for the love. But you can't expect the label or the organization to cut out checks for you when they weren't even around when you were impacted, or they came around after the fact. So it shouldn't be a obligation or almost demand of it. You can expect it, but you can't outright say it, because to say it will make you sound like a douche and a greedy person. You're already dealing with enough bullshit and enough grieving. You don't need people thinking you're money hungry and using your pain for profit. So for you folk out there that want to put labels on folk and make accusations, learn these distinctions for yourself first, so that when you hear these things, you immediately make an educated analysis before you open up your mouth, or before you even put your damn thumbs to whatever keypad you got. With that, I yield the floor for the evening, and I hope everyone enjoyed the show and be blessed and be safe.
Speaking of that, Teach had to leave out. Some personal issues came up, so best wishes goes out to Teach. But it's great to have Teach back on the show. It's great. So Friday, ladies and gentlemen, we have not picked a movie yet, but we will let you know on the Thursday what movie we picked, because this is our watch party. So we will send out the link only. Listen to me, only on hashtag Fade to Black. I'm be nice. I'm be nice this time. I'll be nice this time.
I put this out here to everyone watching and everyone watching between now and Friday afternoon. If you, whatever is your general mood, voting on 3 moods. You want to chill and laugh, or you want to laugh and interact, or you just want to reminisce. And we use those as the categories and give you an example by laugh and interact. Movies like musical style movies, or not, or extremely quotable movies like Life or Harlem Nights,
or Coming to America, or The Five Heartbeats, or The Temptations. So we're talking movies just like that. And Friday, we're gonna send a link not only on the Facebook page. We also gonna send it on our personal ones too as well. So please let your friends know. We will let y'all know, like I said, on tomorrow. But with that, we gotta go ourselves. But yeah, go ahead. Be
side note: if we do Coming to America 2, for those that haven't seen it, and for those that have seen it, if we happen to do that, we're going to make it a drinking game, and we're going to take a shot every time a certain word is said, and then taking a double shot every time a certain phrase is said. Spoiler alert. You seen the movie, ain't you? Mm-hmm. You seen the movie, ain't
you? Oh my God. Anyways, before he go off the rails, if we will let you know which movie that we're going to be showing. McCary, thank you for the shots out, man. Thank you for being a supporter of the show.
True.
We can't wait to have you on. If you be nice if you invite more people to come to the watch party. So, but other than that, we got to head on out. We'd like to thank y'all for tuning into the show and realize that we're going to be touching on these more serious topics more frequently. We're not going to be playing around. I'm like this. We should match the atmosphere that's going on in front of us every day. We should not be taking the gas, taking our foot off the gas. Our foot should be balls to the wall, pedal to the metal. And that's what's going to be happening on the show. But then there's times where we need to relax and enjoy ourselves. So we will have with the bad. So trust and believe. And then also what we're going to start doing is also doing some breaking news as well. With what's been going on with the mass shootings, which we also going to be talking on the show soon as well. Just let me know. I'd love to come on. Oh, most definitely. We sure will. We're going to be posted out there, but not trying to prolong the inevitable. We got to go. As for Anita Joke Teach, for my boy, my bruh, Beach Johnson, and as well as me as your gracious host, Don Alamonte Morse, thank you for tuning in, and y'all have a good night. Can't wait to see you on Friday night. We're out. Catch y'all later.
Peace.
Bye.